3.4 Zeros of polynomial functions preparation. Find each quotient. Okay, so first we're going to do this by long division of polynomials. So let me first rewrite this as division, like long division. There we go. Okay, so 5x. Oops. Now whenever you rewrite it, make sure you write it in descending order. So we're going to write the 4x cubed minus 4x squared plus 5x minus 8. Okay, now what we are going to do here, I'm going to try to explain this step by step, but it gets a little complicated until you at least learn the pattern. So we're going to say this first term here, the 4x cubed, we're going to divide by the 2x. Okay, so I'm actually going to do it over here. So I'm going to say 4x cubed divided by 2x. And that's the first step is division. It's division, right? Okay, now you can see 4 divided by 2 is 2, and you see x cubed divided by x, the first power, just x, is going to give you x squared. Okay, so you put the result of the division on top, and I'm going to try to line it up. So that means I'm going to put the 2x squared right over the other x squares. Okay, and that's the first step. Now we're going to move on to another step, okay? Now this next step is multiplication. Okay, now what we do is we take this, right, that 2x squared, and we are going to multiply by the entire divisor. So that 2x minus 1. So we say 2x squared times 2x, right? That's understood to be first power. So 2 times 2 is 4. And x squared times x to the first power is x to the third. And then we will distribute it to the negative 1, which gives me negative 2x squared. And then we put the result of this multiplication, we put it on the bottom. So we put it down here, 4x cubed minus 2x squared. And what we are going to do there is we are going to subtract all of that, which brings me to the third step, which is subtraction. So we're going to subtract right there, right? Okay, so third step is subtraction. So we say 4x cubed minus 4x cubed, cancel. And then we say negative 4x squared minus negative 2x squared, which is the same as negative 4x squared plus 2x squared. So negative 4 plus 2, right, is going to give me a negative 2x squared. And then I'm simply going to bring everything else down. There we go. Okay, so we did the first 3 steps. Now, we have to keep going, though, so I'm going to move, and I'm going to do the first step again. So the first step, again, is division. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this first term right here, and we're going to divide it by the other 2x. So we're going to take negative 2x squared, and we're going to divide it by 2x. Okay, so a negative divided by a positive is a negative, and 2's are going to cancel out. X squared divided by x is just x. So we end up with negative x. And I'm going to put the result up here, negative x. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the second step, which is multiplication. And what that gives me, I'm going to take the negative x, and I'm going to multiply it by 2x minus 1, which gives me negative x. Which negative x times positive 2x is going to give me negative 2x squared, and then negative x times negative 1 is going to give me a positive x. So we write it as negative 2x squared, and that's plus x. And then finally, we are going to subtract, right? So that's the third step is going to be subtraction. So we're going to do that again, the subtraction, which is the third step. So right, third step is subtraction. We do have to deal with this negative, double negative. Now, if you find that really confusing, you can distribute the negative, flip all the signs, and then add them together instead. That's a possibility, right? So I could, for instance, kind of distribute this negative and flip everything, right? So I could say that would instead be 2x squared minus x. Okay, so anyways, which is a possibility. You can do that instead. So you're saying negative 2x squared minus negative 2x squared, which is the same as adding. So these just cancel out. And then you say 5x minus positive x, which is just 5x minus 1, right? So 5x minus 1x, which is just 4x minus 8. Okay, so we did all 3 steps. So we're done with that iteration of the process, and we go back and we do it again. So now the first step again is division. We're going to divide this first one right there. So we are going to say 4x divided by 2x. And 4x divided by 2x is just 2, right? 4 divided by 2 is 2, and the x is just cancel out, leaving you 2. And where do you write the 2? We put the 2 up here. And I'm trying to put everything in the same columns, right? X squared goes over the x squared, x's go over the x's, and the constants go over the constants. Okay. Now, next step is after division is we do, after division we do multiplication. So step 2, multiplication. And what we do is we take this 2, right, the 2 right there, and we multiply it by 2x minus 1, which gives me 4x minus 2 when I distribute, right? 2 times 2x is 4x. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. And we put the result of that on the bottom, 4x minus 2. Okay, now, at that point, we are going to subtract, right? And so we're doing the third step again, which is subtraction, right? So we'll do 3, which is subtraction right here. We do the subtraction. So 4x minus 4x, they cancel out. And then we have negative 8 minus negative 2, which is the same as plus. So negative 8 plus 2 is negative 6. Okay, so we do the third step again. Now at this point, we can't divide again, because even if we try, right, so let's say we try to do the division again, we would basically be saying, well, 6 divided by 2x. Oh, so we tried to divide, but it just didn't work, right? It won't go in evenly at all. So because it won't go in even once, right? Because this is a constant, this is a first power, this is not going to work. So we can't do that again. But what we can do is we can say, well, plus, or well, actually in this case, let's do a minus, because of the sign of the negative 6 at the bottom. Let's say we want to do a minus, and we put that 6, and the 6 right down here, we use this one, and we're just going to put it over the entire divisor of 2x minus 1. So what happens is you end up with this answer, this whole answer right here. So the blue is the part that it went in evenly, and that black part is the remainder right there. We put the negative 6, and we just simply stuck it over the 2x minus 1. So the second one we do basically the same way, but whenever we set it up, we need to make sure that we have spaces in here. So I'm going to put a 0x squared plus 0x. That's understood to be the first power. I'll put a 1 there just to emphasize it or illustrate that. And then you divide that whole thing by the x minus 1. So if you're going to do long division, this is kind of how you would do it. You can also do this by factoring with using difference of cubes, but I'm going to do it the same way as I did the previous one. But if that occurred to you, you're not wrong. You could do this in an alternate way. Okay, so I had to put the zeros there because just like before, whenever I finish dividing, I need a place to subtract, right? So I need to line everything up when I'm doing the subtraction on the third step. So if I don't have these zeros here, or at least an empty space there, I'm not going to be able to subtract. So we want to do that, right? So I'm going to go over the same steps again. I'm not gonna illustrate this every time with colors and everything. It just takes a while, but I'm gonna do it for a while, right? So basically, first step, division. Once you memorize this, you don't have to write all this side work either. You can really rip through these really quickly once you get the hang of the divide, multiply, subtract, divide, multiply, subtract. And once you, most of these are small enough numbers that you can do mentally. So don't feel compelled to write all this side work out once you get the hang of it. It's not necessary. I'm just trying to, I don't want there to be any ambiguity of where I came up with the numbers, right? So we're going to say x cubed divided by x, and that gives me x squared. Where do I put the x squared? Put it right over here. Okay, next, multiplication. So I'm just too lazy to do a different color. So now we're going to say x squared multiplied by x minus 1, and that gives me x cubed minus x squared. So again, it's going to be x cubed minus x squared. And we subtract, and the x cubes go away, and we have 0 minus negative x squared, which is really plus, so we end up with plus x squared. Bring down everything else, 0x minus 1. Next, we're going to divide the first term there, which is, well, I'm sorry, I should have written third step is subtraction, right? I just did it. Next, first step is division, right? So we're going to say we have x squared divided by x, which gives me x. I put the x on the top. The result of division goes on the top. And then we have to do multiplication. And we multiply the x by x minus 1, which gives me x squared minus x. And x squared minus x goes on the bottom there. And I will be subtracting that. Okay. And x squared minus x squared cancels out. And then 0 minus negative x is actually plus x, so plus 1x. And then I just bring down the minus 1, just like I brought that down there and that down there. Okay, so now, first step again is division. So I say x divided by x gives me a 1. So I just write a 1 up there, a positive 1. And then the next step is multiplication, and we just say, oops, 1 times x minus 1, which is just x minus 1. So we put the x minus 1 on the bottom. We subtract, because that's the third step. Subtract. And they cancel out. X minus x and negative 1 minus negative 1 is the same as negative 1 plus 1. So those cancel out, leaving you 0. So in this case, it went in nice and evenly.